can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a pair of lips that I've lost in the moment. All I want is for you to come back. Now I'm caught in the middle of life, and I need you.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, your brother, and your friend Rashid. And once again, I'm not streaming from home. I've had a lot to do today. I'm running around. I'm waiting for Larry to join us on the chat because this is the October 8th Intel report featuring CIA analyst Larry Johnson. So as we wait for him, I just sent him a shot, okay? So I want to thank everybody for joining me on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Twitch, Twitter, locals, YouTube, and whatever other platform that you're joining us on. There's going to be some serious questions I want to ask Larry as he joins us. He should be here in a minute or so. Give him a second. But I also want to say this to everybody. We got a Power Pack show. Don't forget, after this show, roughly about an hour later, we'll have Scott of Calibrated on the show. Friday, we'll have former Chief of Staff for Colin Powell, Colonel Wilkerson, Larry Wilkerson on the show. On Monday, we'll have Professor and co-founder of Scholars for 911 Truth, Kevin Barrett on the show. We're going to have, for the patrons and channel members, we're going next week we're going to have Larry Freeman on the show. We're also going to have Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, former U.S. Secretary of the Treasury, on the show. And right now, Brian Berletic and I, we're trying to figure out a way, because he's just getting back into it, and we're trying to figure out a date for that would be good for all of us in time. So we're working on a lot of things behind closed doors. And Carl Zar, as soon as he's done doing what he's doing, he'll join us. And we got some other Gregory Manarino and everything like that. So hopefully this won't take long. So while we wait for our guy Larry to join us, remember, I'm outside and it is burning up outside. There's a lot to address. I want to go to something that I discussed yesterday about the U.S. and the imploding empire. I actually discussed this with the channel members and the patrons. Okay, I won't go into everything that went down, but there was an article that came out on RT. Okay, this article came out on RT on October 7th, which was yesterday. And the title of the article is U.S. gave Israel $21.7 billion in military aid during Gaza conflict. All right. Now, that's very important. And why do I say that? Because we constantly hear this mantra from Trump and MAGA. And some of them are sincere. Right. But this America First thing, I want to ask anyone with common sense. All right. How can this be America first when you're cutting health care benefits and pensions for vets? When you and I'm near an airport, so you'll hear a lot of flying over. Okay, so please excuse me for that. I'm working at the same time. Okay, so how can you do that when you're cutting Head Start? You won't give college students a break. You cutting heat and housing aid to people in America, but you can find and make appropriation deals where you can always find money for war, for color revolutions, and for Israel. Israel is supposed to be a so-called quote unquote sovereign country. Now, there was an article that I quoted multiple times on multiple shows that came out by HUD. Herb, what is it called? The government HUD program, right? And it said that they did a study, a scientific study. So this was not just a study, a random study. This was a scientific study done by a host of different factors, a host of different people, and they came out with a bottom line of what it would take to eliminate and alleviate homelessness across the United States, right? Homelessness completely in a country of 340 to 365 million people. The study came out, and you can Google this, DuckDuckGo it, Bing it, or Yahoo it, or MSN it, or whatever you want to do. All right. The study said that it would take roughly $20 billion, $20 billion, to alleviate and eliminate homelessness completely across the board, across the United States. How can this be America's first when your first job is appropriating $21 billion to a foreign entity while homelessness is exploding across America? This is what I'm asking. And for the MAGAs who may hear this, ask your leader, how can this be an America's first policy? Everywhere you go, even in this nice neighborhood that I'm in right now, my sister's neighborhood, um, um, as I came here, and I live out in the country, so I have chickens and all of that stuff. But as I came here, passing under the overpass and all this stuff, you can see homeless people everywhere. All right. And this is not an anomaly, because years ago when I was in New Orleans, it shocked me. I used to live there as a kid, but when I went back there with a friend of mine, as we're going up under the underpass of the interstate, of the freeway, there was homelessness as far as the eye could see, homeless tents and stuff. And then when we rode past the police station, this is on everything. This is on my mother's grave, right? The police department, when they have a gate that opens up, as we were driving by, they have a gate that opens up. The police had to get out of the car to ask the people lying down in front of the gate in front of the police station to move so that they can pull the police cruisers out. This is true. How on earth can this be an America's first policy when you're putting a foreign entity first? I'm asking, because it doesn't make sense to me. Okay, it doesn't make sense to me. All right. Let me see. I got a message. Shout out to William Gilchrist in the building. Let me highlight you, William. Shout out. Thank you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, elevation, and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries. And if you love truth, I'm your brother, your host, and your friend as we wait for Larry to join us, okay? And I know Larry has a whole bunch of engagements or whatever like that. So give him a minute. Okay. Just got hit up by Dr. Paul Graves Roberts. Everything is a go for the show with him also. And so listen, with the aid, and this does not include, now this is just for the Gaza. Listen what this thing says. I want you to pay close attention, okay? U.S. gave Israel $21.7 billion in military aid during Gaza conflict. Now, this does not include the appropriations that they normally give them. This does not include the military hardware that they gave them. I'm talking about yearly, right? So now we have two factors here that we need to look at very closely. Who is more important to the American government, the American people, or foreign entity, right? They're showing you by the actions. Forget what they're saying, look at the actions. The actions will reveal much more than the rhetoric. So we find out that America and the so-called MAGA movement comes second even to Israel. We find out that regular Americans come second even to Israel. Now, here's something else to think about. Let us quantify this. Let's put this in a better perspective, okay? All right. If you add up the money that they gave during the Gaza massacre, which they're still doing, and you add the aid in with the weaponry, because weapons cost money, all right, and you add in the yearly appropriations that are given to Israel, that in itself would be enough to not only eradicate homelessness, but that same HUD study, or another HUD study, said that to eradicate poverty and homelessness in the United States would be roughly $40 billion, 40 plus billion dollars. So you're not concerned about the people in your own borders. You say that you want to America's first, so you want to seal off your borders because you want to focus on America, yet you're sending your money to a foreign entity. How does that make sense? In the scheme of things, listen to this seriously. And this also implicates America, okay? In the war crimes. Because I want you to think about this very, very closely and very, very deeply. If they were supplying Israel with $21.7 billion during the Gaza onslaught, they are not only aiding and abetting the massacre, the crimes, and against humanity and the war crimes. They are actually the instigators and the puppet masters thereof. Because there would not be war, there would not be a genocide, there would not be a massacre, because if you can't fund it and if you don't have the weapons to fight it, then you won't have it. You understand? I hope everybody is understanding. Shout out to Ping One in the building. Shout out to Ping One. Salute. Peace to Rashid and all. Think about this. We have to look at things as they are, not as we would like them to be at the moment, but as they are. Okay. So Larry, if Larry misses joining us, we'll reschedule it. You know how we do the redo or whatever when we put it in the French terms or whatever. But I want to talk to you guys until he comes. I want to put something heavy on your mind, something to make you think. But we're right by the airport, so we have to wait for the plane to fly out. I want to put something over your head, on your mind. Okay. Think about the strain that it puts on the taxpayers. Think about the debt that the United States also incurs. Now, there's 1.7 or 1.6 or 1.7 trillion dollars in student debt, right? Couldn't that have been used to help pay or help alleviate some of the stress on the future leaders, teachers, scientists, generals, scholars? I'm asking. Shout out to Miss Noor in the building. Greetings from Norway. Yeah, shout out to Miss Noor. Shout out to Red Panda Pie. Red Panda Pie says, "Wow, tomahawk flying over Rashid's head." You know, if that's, and he also says hi to everybody. So listen though, where are your priorities in a government? In a sane, sound, rational government, you prioritize. Just like if you have a goal, right? You don't. If you have a goal to be a boxer, and remember, I'm outside. All right. If you have a goal to be a boxer, and you've never been a boxer before, right? You don't just step in the ring with the world champion, right? You go through the motions, you go through the steps that build you up so that you can endure those 12, those 15 rounds, right? That gets you into shape that may make you a contender. You don't just come from under the bridge and then go into the ring thinking you're going to fight a 15-round fight with a person that's seasoned, trained, and knows what he's doing. You set things in motion little by little. Well, governments are supposed to do the same, right? And if the governments don't do the same, we can't say that these are sound, rational, or sane governments or leaders. And if you are picking a government, a foreign entity over your own people, then how can you say that you represent the people that you were supposed to govern? Huh? I'm asking you this. Because nobody does. Shout out to S in the building. Yes. Random, you know I always mess up your name. So shout out to Random in the building. Random is Zerg in the building. Think about what I'm saying to you all. If I have a family, let me give you an example. If I have a family, and I do have a family, and my priorities were always out. I say, I love my family the most. I love you with all my heart. I'll do anything for you. If you just respect me as the head of the house and blah, blah, blah. But every time I turn around, I'm appropriating my paycheck or my money to someone in another state. Sooner or later, that gets tiring. It gets old to the people that you have promised to take care of, to protect, to lead, right? That also applies on a government level also. All I'm talking is common sense. That's all I'm talking, common sense. But common sense is not so common in today's world, okay? Think about what I'm saying to you all and tell me whether I told you guys a lie. Now I'm outside, it's hot, man, listen to me, it's hot as the devil's workshop out here. But I've been running. I had to go get my wife's car out of the shop. Then I had to run over my sister's house. My brother and I, we're doing some things over here for. So, excuse me. Then I have to run back, and check on my chickens and all that stuff over there. Then I have to do some stuff on my property, on one of my properties. But check this out. Let us look at the things as they are. Forget the propaganda. Forget who you like, the personality. That's what I should say. Forget the personality and look at the actions of the personality. Shout out to Nick Hall in the building. Nick Hall is in the building. Think about it. Stop. If I always told you, hey, I'm gonna have guests on the show. I'm gonna have guests on the show, and I never had guests on the show. After a while, you start saying that I'm lying to you, right? But if I have guests on the show, especially frequent guests on the show, and I say, hey, this guest is supposed to be on the show, but the guest doesn't show. And then you'll say, well, maybe the guest has something else to do because I know Rashid's word and he says this, and this, and this. Maybe the guest will show up later, like sometimes they do. That because of the credibility that I've built up with you guys, okay? Well, when we're talking about MAGA and we're talking about Trump, why isn't anyone taking him to task on the policies, the anti-American policies that he's putting in place? Huh? Red Panda Pie says it's absolute total sense. So much so here in EU, I wonder why I'm still here and why I see what they do with the taxes I pay. And listen, they're burying you. I'm talking about the United States, the EU, all of the Western world. They're burying you in debt. Do you know that the Israeli economy is like in free fall? Did anybody realize that? That's why they begged the United States to intervene to stop Iran from continuing to destroy the ports in Haifa and the ports and the other ports and all of the infrastructure. Do you know that? Do you know that it's the United States, and some of you in the UK don't know this, but it's the UK and the United States that are funneling money to try to rebuild some of that stuff while infrastructure in their own lands are being destroyed, falling down, dilapidated, and all of this stuff. How does that make sense? And how is that representing you? And how is that spending your tax dollars properly? Ten Tiger says, absolutely. Let's put this up here. Shout out for joining. Ten Tiger says, we get debt, the rulers get rich. Absolutely. But all of that is going to come to an end. All of that is going to come to an end. Because listen, I tell everybody this. If there's one truth in life, you cannot do wrong in perpetuity and expect to hold on to all of the greed, all of the wealth, and all of the stuff that you have acquired through bloodlust, through war, through deceit. We've seen this go on, and we've seen like the Rockefellers and the DuPonts, and all of these wealthy families pass down their wealth. But we're coming to an end of that because this cannot go on in perpetuity because the laws of physics won't allow it. This is what I'm telling you. When you look at these things that are taking place, you relate them to your level in life, but then use mathematics, use science, use history, use common sense. And it may not happen in your lifetime, which is happening in this lifetime. I'm telling you, this is the end of the American empire. This is the end of the Western world as a global relevant power. I'm telling you this now. All of the signs, all of the metrics that we measure power and riches and superpower status from, all measured, put into your face, tells us that the EU is declining rapidly. The US is declining rapidly. The UK is declining rapidly. And we see multi-poles, multi-powers emerging, emerging. And this is where all the chaos comes from. Because if you've ruled so thoroughly for hundreds of years and now you see that grip slipping, you say, I would rather leave the world burn than I would rather burn down the kingdom than allow somebody else to take the place and rule the kingdom and put it in a better shape. Right? We see that in international politics right here, right now. International politics. Again, everybody, listen, we're supposed to have Larry Johnson on the show. Hopefully he'll join us in the next couple of seconds or next couple of minutes. If not, let me see something real quick. Let me see if he hit me up again. No, that's not. But also check this out. In 1 hour from now, we'll have Scott of Calibrated back on. We're doing a double play today. Okay. So you guys got to join us again in roughly an hour from now. Okay. So again, let me go to something real quick. All right. Let me go to something real quick. This I address also. It says U.S. wants key Afghan air base back. Right. Right. Why? Why? And Trump threatens that if they do not turn over the air base back to the United States, bad things will happen to the Afghanistan. Now, check this out. Isn't that the same guy who was talking about how Biden pissed away trillions of dollars in Afghanistan? I'm asking you this. The reason I'm asking you these things because I'm coming back to something. Isn't this the guy that talked about Biden pissing away trillions of dollars in Afghanistan? And now he's going doubling back down saying we want the airbase back. Why? Because he wants to stop the Belt and Road. That's what he wants. Though the airbase is close to some of China's R&D research centers in China, some of their nuclear facilities in China. It's close to Russia. It's close to Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. All of these areas, Pakistan, India, is right there. It lies right in the heart of that. And we know that the central government is not super strong, right? Right, absolutely. Absolutely, Greg Hausman, absolutely. But the United States says that they build it. Okay, but listen, think about this. If you're right in the midst, now we know that China has a policy, right? A win-win policy for the nations is called the Belt and Road Initiative, and they built rail lines across Asia. They're doing it across Africa. They've even done it a little bit in Latin America. They're doing it in Eurasia, right? Why is this base so important to the United States now? It's because the United States once had a policy to hem China in from the double island chains, the first and the second island chains. China now has the wherewithal to break that quickly. So that's not an option anymore militarily to suppress China's rise and to keep it in check. So now what do we look at? We look at the Malacca Straits. The United States they've openly stated that if war were to break out, that they would close off the Malacca Straits, right? Where China does a lot of trading, where Asia does a lot of trading with the rest of the world. Trillions of dollars goes through the Malacca Strait, be it oil, gas, or goods or whatever, right? Okay. China now has a blue water navy that can compete in that area because that's closer to China than it is to the United States. But why do that if you're China? When you could just sign this Power of Siberia 2 project with Russia. So Russia can supply from the Power of Siberia 1 and 2 gas and oil to you. Right? So you don't have to worry about your economy being strangled by a blockade by U.S. naval forces. Right? Why use your naval forces now that you have rail lines, air freights going through these nations that are now a part of the Belt and Road Initiative? America now sees this. And now she's doubling back to Bagram because Bagram is the heart of what? Central Asia. That's what it's about. Central Asia. To stop the Eurasian economic integration, to prevent Eurasia from uniting with Africa, because this is an unstoppable force. The United States is trying to throw a monkey wrench in it to prevent it from hitting on all cylinders. So she wants to hold the island chain, the two island chains. Then she wants to hold the Malacca Strait. And now she wants to go back into Afghanistan so that she can hold all of these nations. And I put it on Patreon yesterday. I put up the map and everything to show you just how close that area is to all of these relevant nations that I mentioned and what that means for that. Okay. So we understand that this is not anything that has to do with American national security. What this has to do with is American global hegemony. That's a big difference. And not just American global hegemony, but Western hegemony. Because remember, in this whole house of supremacy, the European Union and the UK rest upon the weight-bearing pillar of American military might. Without the economics of the thing, the dollar dies. It's dying now, a natural death. Which means that when America falls, the EU falls. Because the EU, the euro is believe it or not, the euro is a US concoction. The European Union is a US concoction, a British concoction. The British pound is falling. The British pound is tied to the dollar. They have no real economic backing because they're not backed by anything sound. And this is why you see a rush into crypto to try to legitimize all of this other stuff, because the West is out of gold. The West is almost out of silver. They need something to legitimize the currency. The currency is the lifeblood of the economy. The economy is what powers the military engine. Do you understand this? It is very clear what's going on. And they will use anything, human rights, democracy, whatever they need to use to further their goals to maintain economic hegemony. That's what's going on. And Greg says, well, let me go back up something. Let's go. Greg says, C.I.A. and JSOC are also jonesing for their opium. Absolutely. I brought about that on Patreon too. I brought up all of that on Patreon and that's why they continue to hold Haiti in chaos right now, because Haiti is the drop-off point for the opium from the opium coming from east to the west, and all of the heroin and all this stuff. And then Haiti is also the drop-off point where they take the cocaine that they guard and transport from the west to the east. This is why they need Haiti in chaos and turmoil. All right. This is why they need Afghanistan. Most people, as I said, don't realize that the Taliban had nearly eradicated opium fields in Afghanistan. But as soon as the United States and NATO intervened, the first thing that they did, they paid the farmers to kill their crops and grow opium. And you can Google it. Go look up on the on Google Pictures, and you'll see NATO troops guarding opium fields. They're not guarding hospitals. They're not guarding Head Start. They're not guarding colleges. They're not guarding high schools, middle schools, or elementary schools. They're guarding opium fields. Okay? Poppy fields. This shows you the mentality of these people. They need this. Okay? Now let's go for 10 Tiger says, from a military standpoint, it is better to stop your adversary after they are halfway through their project. They lose all their investment that way. Boom. But see, it's hard to stop China now. I believe out of 193 nations, 140 or 150 of them are already in the Belt and Road. China has already tied up the investment. They've already signed contracts. So listen, if there were too many moves by the United States that were seen to be overtly trying to crush the economy of China, if there were too many moves in these areas of investment around the world, then I think China would react militarily. I think they would, because now everything, their economy and their national security and the viability of the government of 1.5 billion people is at stake. You understand? Let's see. Yep. Greg Hausman says, yep, too late though. Yeah, absolutely. Nick Hall says Europe is one big vassal. UK is a vassal too. I don't think the UK is a vassal as everybody says it is. Okay. And I'm gonna give you one thing about. Matter of fact, let me try to pull this up. Okay. Give me a second while I'm talking to you guys. Let me see if I can pull up a clip, a little short clip while I'm talking to you guys, and I'm gonna see if I can pull up this article. Okay. Because if I can pull up this article, man, I didn't know we would be talking about this. I thought we would have Larry here. Maybe Larry will join us shortly, but I'm going to just play a clip for you guys, and then we'll come back because I want to get to something for you guys, okay? About what was just said. This is about a 3-minute clip. Hopefully I can find it, and then pay close attention to this because this is Mike Maloof from the Pentagon. He was a Pentagon official. This is the guy who said that whatever the Pentagon says about their budget, whatever money they're saying they're spending, multiplied by 3.5 times. This is the guy that said, how does he know? Because he was doing some of the budgets of the Pentagon. That's that guy that says that. But now he's talking about the UK and Ukraine and all of this stuff. But while this little clip is playing, I'm going to see if I can pull up something for you guys, okay? All right? All right, so pay close attention to this.
Welcome onto the program, former senior security policy analyst in the office of the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Mr. Michael Maloof. Michael, thanks for talking to us at such short notice as well with our breaking news. This will be denied by the UK, of course, but the scope of the details given by Moscow on it, how significant is that, and your overall thoughts?
Well, thanks for having me. I think that if this report is true and valid, I think by bringing it out ahead of time, it short circuits whatever the UK may have had in mind. It's very clear that the UK wants to drag Russia into a war, and this alleged plot would be certainly one way to do it. However, and I think it's good that the Russian intelligence service is bringing this out to sort of shortstop any initiative by the Brits if they had this intention. It would be an act of war if it were to pan out. It would be a declaration of war, and it's clear that if all of this is true, that the British particularly want to keep Washington in line with other NATO countries to continue to be opposed to Russia and impose greater sanctions. They want continued war with Russia at a time that Washington has other priorities, and this would certainly it would certainly bring Washington back into the fray to protect the British if this were the case, because this would be in effect a declaration of war by the UK, and also to attack in international waters like this or even in friendly ports. I think Russia-friendly ports, I think, would similarly be tantamount to an act of war.
One of the details that really caught my eye, Michael, was that the SVR says Ukraine is expected to carry out the operation. What does that suggest? Just to pick up on what you said there about London's willingness to involve Kiev in high-risk attacks, which, of course, Russia will have to respond to.
Well,
Stop that at that moment for a specific reason. You see the UK and what they're planning and how they're trying to bring the US in it. Now, I'm going to bring something up on the screen to you guys, okay? This goes, he says Europe is one big vassal. UK is a vassal too, okay? And this is where a lot of people, because of the America's great political theater that she has, and because of her major military might, people get misled a lot of the time about the UK or Britain. Let me tell you something. There's an old song that says, "No romance without finance," right? Now, I said that for a reason before I bring this up on the screen. I want to ask you a question. Is it the U.S. Stock Exchange tied to the London Stock Exchange, or is it vice versa? It's the U.S. tied to the London Stock Exchange. All right, New York Stock Exchange is tied to the London. Is it the London Stock Gold Exchange tied to the U.S. Gold Exchange, or is it vice versa? The U.S. Gold Exchange is tied to the London Gold Exchange, and London makes the policy on gold and on silver. He who controls the money controls what? Huh? I'm gonna bring something up, and I'm not saying that. I'm telling you, this is a big cabal. The leaders, from the U.S. to the UK. Okay, people look at it in terms of the body of the nation. I'm telling you the leadership. Okay, but I want to bring something up. Oh, Larry is here. Larry's in the building. All right. I didn't even see Larry get in the building. So I got to bring Larry up because hey, we'll talk about the exchange in just a second. But I got to ask Larry a whole bunch of questions real quick, everybody, because there's so much on my mind, and I got to bring my guy in. Larry, man, thank you for joining. Man.
My apologies. I got hung up, and I'm late. Just don't call me late for dinner, okay?
Larry, I was talking to them about the London and the U.S. gold and stock exchange.
Yeah, listening.
But more, I'll double back on that with them on another time, because I know that you are very, very pressed for time, and I want to ask you, in the last 10 months, how has your outlook on Trump changed, or is it the same?
Oh boy, in the toilet. I held high hopes for Donald Trump 10 months ago. Now I look at him and I think he's doing a lot of damage to the country, and he's a danger to the world. He's an enabler of genocide. He's flouting international law. Blowing up these boats off the coast of Venezuela is just, I'm sickened by it, because you don't have the right just to go kill people because you don't like them or you think they're doing something bad without some evidence. We have a constitutional system with a presumption of innocent until proven guilty, not guilty just because I say so because I'm the president. I would, if there's a choice again between Trump and Kamala Harris, boy, I mean, that's like asking, do you want to have ass cancer or lung cancer?
Larry, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
Larry, so this guy, I just realized there was an article yesterday on RT saying that the United States appropriated $21.7 billion to Israel just during the Gaza operation.
Yeah,
It,
yeah,
isn't that an affront to the Americans themselves, especially when HUD published a report that said that it would take roughly $20 billion to eradicate homelessness across the United States,
yeah.
and we're going to defund some of the programs for veterans, for kids, for colleges, for students with home aid, heating aid, housing aid, all of that, and yet you're going to appropriate 20. And this is not the whole approach. This is just for the Gaza operation.
Yeah.
It got a spit in the face to the first of all the MAGA first people, and then to the rest of the American people.
Well, again, that's Trump promised America first, and now it turns out America's second, Israel's first.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're an American citizen, you get in the back seat. Front seats reserved for the Zionist crowd. And and it's important to draw the distinction between being Jewish and being Zionist,
Mm-hmm.
because there are, as we've seen with Mike Huckabee, man, he's an ardent Zionist, and
Mm-hmm.
he's a Christian, or so-called Christian anyway. So no, it is, we're at a turning point, because I think there are a growing number of Americans that, if you had asked me 3 years ago, I would have talked about, the importance of supporting Israel. I probably would have been in that camp. Not anymore. That camp's dead. I think Israel needs to. They're an international criminal nation. There's no other way to describe it. They attack whoever they want, wherever they want, and they pretend that there's no law but the law of force. Yeah, and that's how they want to live. Then let's have at it. I'm sure there's some other countries there that can push back, but so it's dangerous. And Trump is in a position, in theory, where he could rein them in and compel them to do certain things, but instead he's a complete enabler. And it's like he's talking just a little bit ago that they may be close to a deal with Hamas. If that deal requires Hamas to disarm, there will never be a deal. If that deal requires that there are no Palestinian in control of the Palestinian government, Hamas won't make that deal. So we'll see. Trump may be desperate enough to get a deal that he might finally coerce Israel into accepting something that they otherwise would not. But I don't see there's no sign on the Zionist side of the Netanyahu side to make any kind of surrender or concession.
Well, why isn't that just buying time? Because the United States and NATO, they're putting tankers and all kind of weapons over in the Middle East. And remember, when they were negotiating with Hamas at first, they assassinated the negotiators. Then they assassinated more people. Then they bombed Gaza. Then they were negotiating with Hezbollah. They in the middle of negotiations when everything was cool, and Nasrallah was about to announce something. They assassinated that Hezbollah's leader. Then we look at they were talking about negotiating with the Houthis, and look what they did. They bombed the Houthis, and then in the middle of negotiations with Iran, they bombed Iran. So couldn't this be a ploy to alleviate just a little pressure off of Trump and Netanyahu to make the people believe that negotiations are going on while they're preparing for war with Iran again, part two?
I can't argue with that, brother. They've shown, if Trump has proven nothing else, he can't be trusted. The United States is entirely unreliable negotiating partner. And Hamas, I think the Hamas officials understand that. I hope they do. But what concerns me right now is Trump is the signals he's sending more to Russia. Is overnight we had Sergei Ryabkov, who was the deputy foreign minister. He's always rumored to be the guy who's going to replace Lavrov, yeah. And he came out and basically said, "Hey, this relationship with the United States is going nowhere." He's basically saying it's dead. That there's been no progress since the talks in Alaska on anything. So, and then Trump talking about giving tomahawks to Ukraine. If that happens, that's going to escalate this war to a new level. So in the past, when the United States gave HIMARS or ATACMS, M1 Abrams tanks, and F-16, Russia didn't draw a red line. This time they've drawn a line in the sand. Cross this line, we're at war. That's the basic message. So, so maybe what Trump's doing with Hamas and with respect to settling the issue for Gaza, it's not about securing the rights of the Palestinian people. This is all about figuring out how to get the best deal for Israel.
So, and Larry, you got to excuse the noise. I'm not at home. I'm outside on the patio doing something for my sister.
Oh, okay. I thought, man, oh man, where's that plane crashing into the house?
So I'm in her neighborhood and I'm doing something. My brother and I, we're over here helping out a little bit. But I want to ask you, do you believe that Russia would be forced to respond? I mean, because Ukraine cannot fire tomahawks. Do you believe that Russia would take that as a direct attack by the United States on Russian soil? And what do you think would follow that?
Yeah, no. At a minimum, Russia will be attacking the sites. Anybody that's helped move, transport the Tomahawk, it will be attacked. I think you'll see that Russia will use the Oreshnik missile. So
outside of Ukraine,
possibly, yeah, it could be used in Poland or Romania. It could be used on a NATO base. The Russians, they're not playing now. Now, that said, I just learned that they have now secured Pokrovsk. So the Ukrainians have retreated from Pokrovsk. Boy, that is big news. That's kicking the damn door open to the gold vault. And Russia's going to be rushing in.
Yeah. So now Larry, because I'm not keeping you long, because I know you just
no. Well, I'm at your disposal here, brother. I was late. Not a way to treat a friend.
Well, listen. Well, what is it looking like right now on the battlefield? Because I know right now it seems that the political scene in Europe is imploding. So what is it looking like on the European battlefield as desperation sets in?
Oh, the Europeans they're talking tough, but they can't deliver. I've compared, my latest joke is that if you go around and you offered the average European, say, hey, we're going to give you a chance to have a dinner with Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Emmanuel Macron, President of France, and Friedrich Merz, President of Germany, or Chancellor of Germany. You get to do that, or you can have a colonoscopy. I think they'd all go for the colonoscopy. It'd be less painful, And you know what? At the end of that, you'd know for sure that you weren't full of shit, whereas those three are.
Everybody, you gotta give Larry a hand for that one there. Larry,
sorry, that was bad. I'm sorry.
One of our channel members, Flying Crocodile 46, says, "What did Larry think of Professor Dr. Rose take on Putin's speech and the signals it sends to both Russian people and the U.S. and EU?
Oh, I haven't heard what Dr. Rose said on that. I haven't had a chance to watch that yet. What did he say?
He pretty much said what I said. I've been saying that Vladimir Putin, sometimes he needs to be a little bit more direct to the people. I know he has his own style, but I believe that some of this escalation could have been stopped. I'm saying my opinion. Some of the escalation could have been stopped had Russia pointed out, listen, if you do this, this will be the response. If you do this, this will be the response, and held up their end of the. But sometimes Putin is not very clear on that, and Dr. Roy is saying that this may lead to people in the West thinking that he is scared or he may be timid in reacting to more U.S. provocations.
Oh yeah, I think Gil is so wrong on that. In fact, I had listened to him a day or two before that, where he said, "Oh, Putin's under real trouble, and he's got all these elites. They're going to try to get rid of him if he doesn't toughen up." So I thought, huh. So I tuned into the speech, expecting to see a very nervous, anxious Putin.
Mm-hmm.
Dude was relaxed.
Yes.
He was in a good mood. He was making jokes. He's, like, yeah, did you hear the one about they say we're a paper tiger? Well, we've been fighting them for 3.5 years, and they haven't beaten us yet. And so if we're a paper tiger, what does that make them?
Yep.
Sound like Pee Wee Herman, I know what I am. What are you? That kind of.
I remember that.
So, so he was in good humor, but he was also direct, because he made a point. He said, look, if the United States, and I thought he did an outstanding analysis of the Tomahawk. He goes, well, it's old technology. It's subsonic. Our air defense system's quite capable of shooting it down, as we've defeated the previous systems. But the concern is it's capable of carrying a nuke, and we don't want to be in a position where we have to assume that they're launching a nuke at us. Mm-hmm. So if there's an attempt to try to give those to the Ukrainians, that's going to make a change, alter the relationship with the United States. So, he did it in a polite way, but I thought it was pretty direct. Mm-hmm. And, part of the reason I think he's acting that way is because how well Russia is doing on the battlefield right now. Like I said, they were Pokrovsk was a critical logistics hub, and basically the notion was, once you take Pokrovsk, then all these other settlements that are in the far western part of Donetsk, they're going to start collapsing much rapidly. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you had Ukrainian forces pulled out, they got another 10,000 surrounded at this reservoir. So I was just like, I got a report from a friend of mine earlier. Let me see. Yeah. So my friend though also sent me that, Russia, their national legislature, the State Duma, decided unanimously to cancel their cooperation with plutonium management control with the U.S. And they also, they said the tone of the legislature has become quite anti-U.S. And, he anticipates that Russia's going to start cutting off supplying the United States with certain strategic minerals, such as uranium, titanium. So there are some things that the United States gets from Russia that we can't get, anywhere else, or we get it from China, and the Chinese aren't going to have anything to do with us.
Yeah.
So the battlefield it's moving. Ukraine's not reversing it. They're not driving the Russians backwards. They're on their heels. They're going backwards.
Yeah, and I know that Russia supplies cheap uranium for the power stations, and they are responsible for 20 to 30% of the U.S. energy from nuclear plants or whatever. So yeah,
Right.
that's something. Um, Ms. Noor says, didn't the Ukrainians just hit Belgorod with HIMARS? Why are Tomahawks different?
Because a Tomahawk can carry a nuclear warhead, HIMARS cannot. That's the bottom line. The HIMARS are actually faster than the Tomahawks. Tomahawks fly at around 540 miles per hour, so that's subsonic. But uh, they uh, they were designed. Look, the, these Tomahawks are as old as your son. I actually probably older than your son. You know, so I mean they were built 45, 48 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So um, it's not like it's brand new technology. The other thing that uh, comes with the Tomahawks, though, is going to be a U.S. crew or a NATO trained crew. Could be Brits, could be Germans operating it, because somebody who's got access to top secret clearances to access the geospatial information that's downloaded into the system, so it can figure out where the hell it's flying and what it's supposed to hit.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Flying Crocodile says, "Hey Rashid, zero streaming issues from your sister's house." Actually, let me say this to you guys. We at my house we had the people come out. They said there was a wire cut. That's why the streaming issues was happening. They replaced some wires running from my pole to my house or whatever. I don't know how the wires got cut. You tell me. But it is what it is. Greg Hausman says, Odessa soon.
Yeah. Well, Putin, I think he just gave a speech in the last, maybe yesterday, and it iterated that, now Russia has already, what Russia wants now is the international recognition that Crimea, Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, and Luhansk are Russian territory, period. End of discussion. Western Ukraine came, no, we're not going to do that. Okay. So Putin said, all right. Because our next move will be, we're going to take Kharkiv, Poltava, Sumy, Dnipropetrovsk, Mykolaiv, and maybe one I'm forgetting in there, and also Odessa.
Kherson.
So they'll take that, and then Ukraine is just going to be screwed. They'll be completely isolated. They won't have any more access to a Black Sea port. They'll be landlocked, and they'll have had the most important resources that are believed to be Ukrainian will now be under full Russian control.
Do you think if that happens and they Russia makes that land bridge to Transnistria?
Transnistria?
Yeah. Do you think that Ukraine would then lose its relevance to NATO because all of the important strategic minerals that Ukraine had would be in the hands of Russia? They would lose the seaport. They would lose everything that the United States and the UK was trying to use as to turn the Black Sea into a NATO sea. Do you think and it will become a economic burden on the EU, the US, and the UK? Do you believe that they would then lose interest and call it a failed state?
Yeah. This will be worse than having, a relative who's a bum try to move in with you and live with you. Doesn't pay you, won't be paying rent, won't be buying groceries. They'll be watching your TV all the time and breaking it from time to time. So yeah, what kind of relationship is that? You just want to kick them out and get rid of them. That's where Ukraine's headed. We're going to eventually get tired of them. We're going to kick them out and get rid of them.
Well, do you think, Larry, that Zelensky understands that now he's used up his usefulness, and that Ukraine is on the verge of total collapse. Do you believe that he is in fear that the United States may just turn their back on him, and NATO may just walk away and blame him for everything?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's starting to dawn on him. He doesn't look good in a lot of recent photographs. The boy's a bit stressed. You know. So yeah, no, he's got trouble.
Yeah.
And I said I hadn't been, I was out and got caught up and couldn't get back to the house in time. But I got a note saying that in fact Pokrovsk has fallen.
Ooh.
So, South Front is reporting. Hang on here. What's the headline? So you've had the fall of Kupiansk and Pokrovsk. So they've it's a strategic retreat. That's how they're talking about it.
So you heard that first here on the Red Pill Diaries. Larry dropped that here first on the Red Pill Diaries.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Larry, sometimes, man, your insight is so invaluable, man. I really appreciate you, Larry. Because every time I need you, you come through for me like a champ, man. And I want to give you your flowers on this side. and want to say thank you for everything, Larry.
All right, brother. Well, like I said, my apologies for my late arrival, but hey, it's better, it's better to show up anyway,
Yeah. All right, Larry, thank you for everything, everybody. I want you guys give Larry some claps, standing ovation. And Larry, I'll send you the video.
Okay, thanks, brother. Later.
All right,
Bye.
later. All right, bye. Everybody, listen, we got coming up shortly with Scott of Calibrated. But before we end the show, I want to go back to something real quick, okay? As I was telling you about the London and gold stock exchanges and the London Gold Exchange and the U.S. Stock Exchange and the U.S. Gold Exchange. And see, I didn't forget. I was waiting. And we were talking about something else. And I want to bring something to your attention. I'm going to bring this up, and it's going to be, give me 5 minutes because I got to give you this information. Like I said, I keep my word. And then from that, we're going to end this show or whatever like that. And then we're going to come back in like 20 minutes with Scott of Calibrated on the platform. So you guys, also, it doesn't cost you a thing to hit the like button. If you're on Rumble, hit the like button. If you're on Odyssey, hit the like button. If you're on YouTube, hit the like button. If you're on the Red Pill Journals, hit the like button. That's our sister channel, the Red Pill Journals. This is the Red Pill Diaries. Hit the like button. Go to Locals. It's free. Twitch, hit the like button. Twitter, hit the like button. Do it all, okay? I'm trying to hustle to get you guys this truth and get you some of the best guests that you guys can have, okay? But I'm gonna bring up something real quick, okay? Let me see if I can bring this up real quick. Give me 1 second. All right, boom. So we're going back to my guy, Nick Hall. I think Nick brought up that that the UK is a vassal state. I want you to look up this right here, at this article on the screen, Nick. It came out September the 28th. All right, at 11:30, 2025. And the title of the article is Trump's Ukraine shift tied to King Charles, according to the Telegraph. And let's scroll it a little bit and let's see. The U.S. president had previously insisted that Kyiv would need to abandon some of its territorial claims. U.S. President Donald Trump's newly adopted stance on the Ukraine conflict was shaped by his recent, let's read this paragraph, this first paragraph together. And let me highlight it for you guys. U.S. President Donald Trump newly adopted, so that wasn't his stance at first, newly adopted stance on the Ukraine conflict was shaped by his recent UK visit, the Telegraph has reported, citing unnamed sources. Vladimir Zelensky's chief of staff, Andriy Yermak, has told the newspaper that the visit was very important. Now listen to this. Let's go further. We'll highlight each paragraph so you'll be able to see it better. For months, Washington insisted that Kyiv would need to give up on certain territorial claims for a U.S.-mediated peace deal with Moscow to move forward. This week, however, the U.S. president reversed course. He dismissed Russia as a paper tiger that Kiev could defeat and said his shift came from getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russian military and economic situation. Earlier this month, Trump visited the UK, one of the Ukraine's staunchest supporters since the conflict intensified in February 2022. During the trip, the American leader met with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who called for increased pressure on Russia. Trump also visited Windsor Castle, where he was lavishly hosted by King Charles. Yarmark praised the king's effort. I like to mention that it was a great visit of President Trump to the United Kingdom, and I know the position of His Majesty, the position of Prime Minister Starmer, and the people whom the president met. It was very important, he told the British newspaper. Diplomatic sources suggest it was no coincidence that Trump's change of heart came soon after his conversation with Charles, the outlet reported. So, if he was on this, my thing is, if his position was one way for so long, right? But just after one visit with King Charles, right? Talking to King, everything changed overnight. He ignored all of the real-time intelligence. He ignored all of the ground intelligence. He ignored all of the satellite intelligence. He ignored all of the information that was coming in through all of the U.S. intelligence agencies. He ignored all of the reality that's on the ground. He ignored all of the world news. He just threw all that in the trash can after talking to King Charles. So what does that tell us? That Britain is not really a puppet. Britain strokes the ego of America to get policies done that Britain wants done. That's what it shows us. And as Randall Meserg said, Charles said, "I'll make you a sir." That's pretty much what it is. Stroking the ego. Remember that the empire came from the British Empire. The U.S. empire is a byproduct of British imperialism. And that, don't think that just like with Pakistan, just like with India, don't think that they just pulled out everybody. Britain still held political clout there. That's why you have these people who, regardless of what's going on, they still want to hold on to Western friendship. They still want to hold on. And then you have the other ones that are nationalists. But then you have most of them in power that India is negotiating a free trade deal with Britain, a colonial power that colonized, raped, and massacred them. But yet they have beef with China, who wants a win-win deal with them. So Britain is not as irrelevant as people think. Understand that. So listen, it's been a great talk. I got to get ready for the next show. The next show comes up in about 20 minutes. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on the most powerful platform for truth, bar none, on God's green earth. This is your platform for education, elevation, and edification. This is the Red Pill Diaries. I'm your host, your brother, and your friend, Rashid. And I like to say, do right by others, not because there's some material gain or because there's some accolades behind it. Do right by others because it's the right, the humane, and the godly thing to do. Because even when no one else is watching you, remember that God Almighty is watching you. As my mother always said, may God bless her soul. God sits high, but he looks low. Know that I love each and every one of you who loves truth, but know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. Until we next speak again, stay strong, stay true, but above all things, remember to stay righteous and tick that like button. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Thank you, everybody. Deuces. We're out of here. Peace.
without your faith. Well, what can I do? 'Cause I'm just a sinking ship, and you're just a